Hello everyone, this is Yolanda, and welcome back to the channel. I thank you so much for being here today. In my last video, I shared how the Lord delivered me after almost 40 years of spiritual oppression and bondage. Today, I want to take you deeper. I want to tell you exactly what happened on the day the Lord Himself entered my home. For months leading up to the Lord's visitation, I had been crying out to God. I was tired of the way my life was going. I was spiritually exhausted and at the end of myself. The oppression over my life had become unbearable. I didn't know how much more I could take. But I do remember praying and saying to the Lord, I cannot live like this anymore if you don't help me. And then something happened that I still cannot fully explain. On September the 4th of 2024, very early in the morning, I woke up and touched my forehead, and there was a very large fluid-filled hematoma right in the center of my forehead. I had not fallen, I had not bumped my head, there was no trauma of any kind. When I felt that swelling, I knew something spiritual had happened while I was asleep. It shook me, but I had no idea what was coming next. A few days later, the atmosphere in and around my apartment began to shift. 3 days after the hematoma appeared, it was a quiet Saturday morning, and I wasn't expecting anything unusual to happen. But suddenly the atmosphere began to change. The air felt different, the room felt different. Something great and holy was getting ready to enter. And then it happened. The presence of the Lord entered my apartment. I cannot describe it in natural words. It was not a feeling, it was not imagination, and it was not emotion. It was a presence, living, holy, and powerful. The entire building around me became still. It was like time had stopped. No sounds of traffic, no cars, no outside noises. Everything went silent. The only thing that I could do was look up towards the ceiling. It was instinct, and it was like my spirit recognized the Lord instantly. And as I looked up, tears began pouring from my eyes uncontrollably. I wasn't crying because I was afraid. I was crying because I knew it was Jesus who had entered my home. And in that moment, I felt something very deep and very real. I felt a sense of guilt, like a child caught with my hands in a cookie jar. Not because the Lord wanted to condemn me, but because in His presence, I realized that He saw everything. Every moment of my life, every sin, every mistake, every wound, every battle, and every attack. Nothing was hidden from the Lord. There was a weight in the atmosphere, but it wasn't heavy. It was holy and powerful. His presence filled every inch of that room. It was peaceful, but very powerful. It was gentle, but almost overwhelming. It was the kind of presence that make you know instantly that this is God. This is not human, and this is not my imagination. As His presence rested in my apartment, something began to lift off of me. Decades of heaviness, decades of oppression and fear, decades of confusion, it all began to break. It felt like chains were snapping inside of me, chains I didn't even know were there. And then just as suddenly as he came, his presence lifted. But something was very different. I knew without a doubt that I was no longer the same person. I felt lighter, I felt clearer, and I felt alive for the first time in many, many years. Something inside of me had been set free. The next morning, everything was different. The torment was gone, the heaviness was gone, and the confusion was all gone. It was like waking up in a new body, with a new mind and a new spirit. I knew Jesus had delivered me. And after that visitation, the Lord spoke to my spirit clearly and said, "Share what I have done for you." And that is why this channel exists. Not to entertain, not for soft messages, but to testify that Jesus Christ is alive and he still delivers, and he sees everything going on in the world and everything his children go through. In closing, I would just like to say, if you've been experiencing things that you can't explain, if you feel spiritually attacked, if you feel heaviness, fear, or confusion, I want you to stay with me through this series and moving on this channel. Jesus delivered me after almost 40 years, and I know he can deliver you too. Thank you so much for being here today, and may God bless you. Have a wonderful day.